I do believe we are on now, and so that's really good. Didn't even know that I wasn't on there on that. So how about that? We are here. All right, good to be here tonight. Hope you're doing fine tonight. We're doing really good. All right, we are here again, and good to be with you tonight. Hopefully, you're all doing well. Hopefully, you can hear me just fine. And I just got on video, so sorry about that. Here we go. All right, welcome everyone. And it is Tuesday night. Tonight, we're going to talk about the dollar. I have some new information about that I want to share with you. So, somebody who needs to hear about this. It's really good news. It's some different news than I thought. Adding a little bit to what we've seen already, and opening up that to you tonight to share that with you. So if people miss it, they can always go back and get the. Hey, there we go. Okay, yeah. If people miss it, they can always go back and get the archive right here on this outlet. So that's really nice. Really, really good. Hello. I think you can hear me just fine, hopefully. And if not, let me know. Yeah. Okay. Right. The dollar. We're going to talk about the dollar tonight in some ways that we haven't talked about it before. And I think I just turned off something. I did. Hang on a second. I think I did it. All right, I did it. Yeah, amazing what you can do right in the middle of the show. It turns off something that doesn't need to be turned off. All right, so here we go. And like I said, we're going to talk about the dollar tonight, and we're going to talk about the gold and silver a little bit, some new things I have. So get ready for some of that information tonight. It's going to be really cool. I think it's really going to lift you up and make you feel a little bit safer. I'm starting to see some things that I've never seen before about gold and silver and the dollar and all the things that are going on with it. It's really cool. Everything's basically still on. Nothing really changed in the major round, except the way things are going to develop with the dollar and how Trump is working some things with the dollar that I was not, I worried he was doing it, but I didn't see the link that he was trying to make there. And so we're going to at least document this tonight for the first time. So we're going to talk about it. All right. Okay. All right. People are sending me information I haven't seen yet, so that's kind of nice to get that open there. All right. We are going to talk about it. And so when you're ready, when you're ready, let me know. When I'm ready, I'll let you know. And so we will get this rolling and share some things with you about the gold and silver. Maybe I should send a text out about that. Um, think I will send a text. Let me give you a second to send a text out about that. All right. Let me get ready to do that. That way everybody can kind of know what we're going to talk about tonight. All right. Hang on a second. I'll be right there. And we will do this thing. All right. There we go. Okay. All right. I'm going to send this out real quick and get everybody a new thing on this. So give me a minute here. All right. Let's play a song. I'll be right back. I'm going to send some text out.
I, John, am the one who heard and saw all these things. Let all on the earth and in heaven sing. Jesus is the source of David and heir to his throne. If you find and follow Jesus, you will never be alone. He is the bright morning star. He is the God who's never far. The Spirit and the bride say, come. Let anyone who hears this say, come. Let anyone who is thirsty come, because the work of the cross is done. Drink freely from the water of life. The way and truth is Jesus Christ. He sent an angel to present this revelation to his servant John. The day of truth is about to dawn. The angels in a group of 7. He comes with the clouds of heaven. Comes with the clouds of heaven.
that tonight. All right, we're going to share about the dollar tonight. It's in the text area, let them know about it. And so I have some good news about the dollar and the gold and silver, buying gold and silver and how that's going to work together. And I'll just explain it here in a second, but we'll give people a chance to get their text and then they'll come on and we'll start talking about it. So give me just a moment there as we do that. So anyway, that's some really good news. Yeah. So it's something I just got today. So I'm wanting to share it with you tonight. I went through a lot of information today, so much information today that I'm like kind of like, wow, that's a lot of information. And came up with a simple uh, thing to explain what I see going on and what's happening and what they are preparing for. And I'll try to get that all out in the open. Gold and silver right now is doing really good. Silver's just, you know, really doing awesome. It's just going way back up again. And, we were telling you that that might happen as it looks like it has. It may correct one of these days, but right now it's not. So, and gold is just about to catch up with its record that it had. Very, very close to catching up with the record that it had just recently. It kind of got sold off a little bit, and now people are buying back. It kind of got leveled off a little bit. There was a bit of a correction, you could say. So, corrections are good, when they're done properly and when it's time for them, a correction can be good. So we had one of those already, as some of you may know. But the big thing that I did not realize, I'm going to share that with you tonight about the process that Trump and Texas are working on that I was not aware of. And I have not talked to them. I have not talked to any of their people. None of that. It's just I always wondered what the Genius Act was really all about, and so that I looked at it and I started doing research on it and how it fits in with the Texas situation of making gold and silver usable for currency through the debit card and all that. And so it was quite a thing going on there. And but but I never really realized how it looks like Trump and of course Texas working together. We've talked about that already, but I'm not going there tonight. But what I'm saying is that the fact that they have been working together is really awesome, especially with the Muslim Brotherhood thing that's gone on. I told you guys last night that they stopped a New Year's Eve Muslim attack. Actually, the Palestinian people, the Palestinians, friendly people that are against, of course, Israel and the United States. And so they had busted him. That just happened. The FBI had been watching him for quite a while, I think, and they busted him in California. If you haven't done research on it, you might check into it, and so you can make sure that you understand that this is real. Um, and so yeah, they busted like four people, and have all the proof, of course, to uh, you know deal with them properly. And so it's really, really amazing how that stuff is going on with the Muslim Brotherhood. They're connecting them to ISIS right now. ISIS is a Muslim Brotherhood style of the way they do their government. They are very strict on wearing the scarf, and so it's really kind of like Iran is right now. ISIS is kind of the same way. So yeah, this has really been an amazing thing how Texas and Trump, uh, Texas first, actually made it against the law for anybody connected with the Muslim Brotherhood to buy land or property, and they made them illegal in the United States or in Texas. I'm sorry, in Texas. And so now Trump, 5 or 6 days later, followed up as we saw the news, and he's saying the same thing, except he has to go through the process of making that thing happen. So we're seeing a global thing with the Muslims. We saw this, like I said yesterday, we had um, the FBI busted those people for planning an attack that was already well on the way all across Los Angeles, all across Los Angeles. Yeah, and so you can imagine what a blessing that is. And so, thanks to our prayers and lifting them up, and the FBI and other agencies working together, including Mossad, I'm sure, and CIA, all working together, and we really appreciate those shepherding when they do their job right. They shepherd the nation or the world, and it's really a beautiful thing when it's done correctly. And so it's happening. We're being protected. I don't know if it's all going to be perfect. I don't have a clue about what's going to happen uh, because now that the Muslims have been discarded, if you will, the Muslim Brotherhood and their way of doing business has been discarded in Texas for sure, made against law, and now the U.S. started to do that. So now that they bust, you can see the combination of how they're working together in California. Of course, the Trump administration, FBI, Cash Patel was the head of that bust, and so stopped them from that. It's now being confirmed that they did it for sure, that they busted them. So it's not fake news. It's a real thing. So it's really interesting what's happening, and so now I have some new news tonight for you that is working. It is working with Trump, and of course Texas working to work the dollar, the U.S. dollar, which we've talked about, crashing. I don't have a date on the crash as far as it actually manifesting, but it all began on October the 13th, 2023. We now know that all the central banks all across the global banks globally, from Turkey to everybody we've already named them all, and they've been buying gold in historical amounts, and which tells you that if they were buying gold, buying a lot of gold, that would be different. Every month, every year, that is, a few times a month, buying a normal, maybe an above normal amount, but they're not buying an above normal amount. They're buying massive amounts, uh, tons of gold, and per month, and so that was a signal that because they're buying tons, historical amounts of it, they're buying a bunch of it. That's different. But no, we're talking about an historical amount of gold. It tells you that they're up to something, or they know something, or they're preparing for something. That's just the evidence, and that's documented. All this is documented. It is not, bad news. It is fake news. It is real news. And so, if you look at it for yourself, you find out. And so, in the midst of researching and looking over, I have now noticed some new things from what had already been done with the Genius Act that happened, I think, in July. I think Texas passed the law in June. I think Trump did it in July. Not long after that, about uh, you know Trump with the Genius Law, which has to do with what I'm going to talk about tonight, gold and silver, and with Texas finally passing the law, making it even with a date on it, September of 2026, where they actually it comes alive, where you're gonna have the debit card and gold and silver being able to, if you have gold and silver, you're gonna be able to spend it, going to the store. They now have that, and so, but I did not understand completely what the Genius Act was doing. So I did more research on the Genius Act, and when I do research, I mean I do pretty good research. I think from different levels, different things, different outlets, different platforms, and so go back and forth and make sure my information is correct. So I noticed that the Genius Act, and here we go, the Genius Act that Trump passed in July, I think it was July of this year, 2025, had to do with the backing of the dollar. It was backing that it was backed by the dollar, and that didn't make me happy at first because I'm going like, we don't need to back the dollar. We need to be backed by gold. We need to be backed by gold and silver, or by gold, at least by gold. And because the U.S. dollar used to be backed by gold, and then it all changed, and then we started printing dollars, and that just kind of messed up the system and devalued the dollar. And so the fear that everybody's had is the devaluation of the dollar. And then what do you do next? We haven't had anything prepared and ready. Other nations kind of do. but the United States hasn't. And so we saw all the gold being bought by the central bank. So here's what I'm saying: that when Trump passed that law, I'm going to make this as quick as possible. When Trump passed the law of the Genius Act, what it did is that it really opens up the door for the dollar to be backed by gold. That's what it's done. That's what I didn't like about it at first. I said we don't need to concern ourselves with the dollar. We need to concern ourselves with getting the gold thing going on. So what the Genius Act has done, along with the Texas bill that was passed, uh, and that will be active and alive in September. Now I see this thing as what they're doing is it's a very hard transition to go from uh, doing business with the dollar, the globe, the whole globe, doing business by the dollar, and then all of a sudden going from that to gold, like you know, a transition that just happens like overnight or whatever, or within a few months. It was really through everything that I went through on this and learned about it. That's a very difficult process, and I think that's why Texas took so long after being warned here by us, or being told about that prophesying they would have gold and silver, and with a debit card, and then eventually with a it would be global because it's going to be used with some kind of a new satellite system, which will make it global, and didn't have a clue about any of what that meant. But that's what's been happening. That has actually gone from being the future to the tangibility of right now. And but the big problem has been here's the big, really the monkey wrench uh, mentality of the trouble of just going from the whole globe working by the dollar to one day just changing everything and going to gold. All right, so the transition period of that, uh, had to be worked, and so I wasn't really aware of that, and so aware of how that they were working that they were Trump was and has been working it to where the Genius Bill and the Texas bill passed with the debit card, gold and silver, are working together to get the dollar backed by gold. That's what I see the whole thing as being about right now. And so because it's so tied, the Genius Act is so tied to stable coins being tied to the dollar, which, like I said, didn't make me very happy because if the dollar's going to crash soon, what are we going to tie it to? But here's the thing: they have made it to where now, and the long story short, a lot of research short is that they have made it to where um, the progression of the dollar crashing is going to be longer, right? Because why? Because they're going to back it by gold and silver, which they're doing right now, right? With Texas already passed a law September 20, 2026 is going to be alive. It's a fact. I mean, Google it yourself. And so everything we prophesied has been happening, except I didn't really understand all the process. So now I see that what they have done is, as Trump has worked it to where now it's a Texas-based gold and silver debit card, in the depository, uh, backing the dollar now instead of just getting rid of the dollar and throwing it away or saying we're not going to use it anymore, backing the dollar so that the dollar will have more strength that it can continue to be used. But as the systems mix together, as the gold and silver backed dollar now mixed together, and the ability to have gold and silver that you can use a debit card with, the people are going to have more time to transition into the gold and silver. You see what I mean? This is how I now see this, which is a completely different understanding than what I had before. So in other words, the dollar is being protected from going down so easily. It can still go down, but with the gold backed uh, debit card, thing going on with Texas, that is going to strengthen the dollar so that when China and Russia, which they've been doing, and Turkey and all these guys buying gold like crazy and getting ready to trying to dump the dollar, It's not going to matter whether they dump the dollar or not. It's not going to affect the dollar as bad now because of what Trump has done to connect the Genius Act, which is a stable coin backed by dollars, US dollars, and now backed also by gold. So this is going to linger on and allow the dollar to be stronger so that it doesn't crash without controls. In other words, it's going to be stronger. Therefore, when as China and Russia and Iran and I mean not Iran, but North Korea and all those countries, uh, Turkey, whatever they you know do away with the dollar and do all their business in their currencies, which is weakens the dollar. Now with what Trump is doing, from what I see here, is that that is not going to weaken the dollar. It's not going to affect the dollar the same way because now we're going back to the dollar being backed by gold, which is what we had before. And then once the problem became when they started, printing dollars, it devalued the dollar, right? Which has been a lot of dollar printing, and the economy is still in shambles in many ways. But the thing that they've done to protect the dollar from an immediate crash, or not from an immediate crash, but from a surprise crash from hidden information, and things that people didn't, just like in the market crash in 2008, you know, uh, we gave words about that, but at the same time, nobody was warning about it. Nobody was saying, "Oh, I mean, as far as real news and news that was out there, there were some people we saw later after it was all done that started seeing the effects of housing and that kind of thing, and they started seeing some signs of things, but nobody really saw the market crashing except us. And so we made that in public and all that, but nobody saw the signs. So that's what we're talking about now. Sometimes it's hard to, even though the signs are saying it's going down, we all kind of like go, well, we've had trouble before. We're going to be fine. Just like when Pharaoh was being hit with the plagues by Moses and God, he kept saying, "Yeah, we've had plagues before. We've had frog problems before. We've had hail before. We've had all these things happen before, but never like that." But still, so his hope was in that Pharaoh kept going. Well, this is my scripture for tonight. Is about Pharaoh and Exodus 11 and 10, 11 and 12. As you read 10, 11, 12, you see that he kept saying, the Bible keeps saying that these plagues were happening like none had ever happened before. Because they've had plagues. Every nation's had plagues of some sort or another. But, so Pharaoh kept going hard in his heart, like going, well, we've had plagues before. Moses, can you stop it? And when it stopped, he kind of went, yeah, that probably stopped on its own. Yeah, can't have any more. We're not gonna have any more plagues. And if we have more plagues, we'll make it through it because we've made through plagues before. So this is kind of what's happening in the financial realm. People they see signs, like the plagues were signs that we have a little bit more of an increase on that particular kind of plague. We've had plagues before, but not quite that much. But hey, we can adjust and no problem. But we're not going to have a downfall. So people have, in a sense, been lured to sleep, even though the signs are there. In 2008, the signs were there. People later look back and they saw the signs, right? And they go like, well, if we'd have read those properly, we would have known. It's the same thing always. So just like with Pharaoh didn't really believe he was going to go down. He was the strongest nation in the whole world, and he's with a bunch of slaves taking him over. No way, that's not going to happen. So he kept telling himself, hey, yeah, we're having plagues. Moses is strong. He's a powerful man of God and all that. But, I'm Egypt, man. I mean, I rule the world, basically, the known world at that time. And our economy was good. We're blessed. We got the greatest military in the whole world. And these little slaves think they're going to come in here and tell me, with some plagues, which we've had plagues before. So he didn't recognize until later when we read it in the Bible. We all know that he was going down, right? But he didn't know he was going down, even though the plagues were deeper and darker than they've ever had before. But he just said, well, when you're a ruler, you get used to hard times. You kind of, that people threaten you with all kinds of things. Yeah, we've had those threats before, and maybe a few little things happen, but we recover. There's no problem. And so this is kind of what's going on with the dollar and markets over the years. People don't really see the signs that are saying you're going down, until it's too late, and then they turn around and look back and go, "Yeah, yeah, well, that was that. Oh, yeah. Well, why didn't we see this and why didn't we see that?" It made sense that we were going to go down, and have a major correction. But no, they didn't see it, and nobody talked about it really. You see some people later, yeah, we saw something, but nobody had the boldness to come out and say we're going down, because it would just would have been crazy, sounded crazy. Well, I said it because the Lord showed me, but I was the only one. I was a prophet. I wasn't a businessman, and so we actually said that and told them that it's going down in a major way, and so they didn't believe it. Until later on they apologized, because when they look back, they can see the signs. So what I'm saying is that as a prophet, my job is to tell people what's going on before they see the signs. And they say, "Oh, no, Chandler, I mean that, I'm even working with some of these AI people, these AI people, these AI apps. You try to tell them, what's going on, and they, that ain't gonna happen because of this and that and the other, and this, that, and the other, and AI argues with me all the time. I love it because I get to sharpen my skills. But even AI is going like, well, yeah. And so I explained to them what I just explained to you. But AI, how about all the market failures when nobody saw that coming much until it was too late? And then they look back and, well, yeah, why didn't we see that? And that's what AI was telling me. You know, we're not going to fail. We're not going to fail. It can't fail. We're not going to. And go like, but you don't understand. And so so long story short. So I really believe that what Trump has done, um, is very smart, very good. I think that he has, by Texas getting the gold and silver thing going on and backing the dollar through those stable coins, and being able to back that with gold, is going to cause the dollar to be stronger, so that at least temporarily, it's eventually going to go down, but not. But this is safeguarding it from just, my fear that I've had, as you guys know, is that we're just going to like wake up one day and go, man, why didn't we read the signs? It's too late now, or it's going to unravel so fast that we're not have time to make, to fix it. Just like the markets when they crash, they just, everybody's, oh my God, well, I didn't see that. I didn't see it. All these professional people who know everything about the market couldn't tell you that it was coming until later when they look back at the sign. Well, my job is I tell them before the signs even appears, sometimes. And so it's hard for them to conceive that this is going on. Like I told you, I literally had an encounter with a friend of mine who was heavy in the market, and stock market stuff, and a lot of money, dealt with a lot of money. And, you know, so when I told him on the boat in Florida in 2007, I said, the market's going to crash. It's going to be a big crash. And he says, no, it's not. I said, yeah, it is. He says, no, it's not. I said, it is. And that was it. We went and ate dinner, And so what do you do? Argue with them? These people, no, I don't know anything, right? Until, and then the week it was going to happen, I told him a vision that I had. Yeah, I told him exactly what's going. No, yeah, okay, Randy, we love you, man. You're a fine man. We love. When are you gonna have a meeting over here? We love you. Yeah, come prophesy to some people, but I can't. I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen. I told him the week it was going to happen because God showed me. Right, I told him, and it happened exactly as we said. Exactly. So my whole point is that in my world, you deal with people all the time who they don't see the signs. Just like in 2008, they didn't. People, look back later and they saw the signs, but they didn't see the signs before as meaning anything. Like, nah, we've had those troubles before. We'll be fine. Like Pharaoh, oh, we've had plagues before. Moses, we're not going to go down. I'm not going to let you go because this is all going to end. You can only have so many plagues, and then it's going to be over. So you can have your plagues if you want. We've had them before, no problem. This is the attitude and the deception that goes on in this world, right? As far as, the prophet versus people who, see things, but they don't see them as the end of an era of a certain thing, like 2008. That was the end of, that was a major collapse. That's what I was going to be a major collapse. And of course, so once it falls, everybody goes, "Yeah, man. I mean, anybody could have seen that." Well, then why didn't you see it? Because what you did? Oh, you didn't want to because you really didn't see it. You looked at it like, oh, we've had those kind of plagues, those troubles, financial. Oh yeah, the housing market. We've had. They'll work their way through it. It's not. We're not going down. And then 2008, third quarter, and that week right there, you know, it went down. It just went down. It crashed, just like we said. And so this is what I have to deal with, and it's kind of fun. It's frustrating, very frustrating in a sense, but it's kind of fun in a way because you learn even with talking with AI, and I deal with AI because AI knows a lot of rules and laws and regulations about how things can go and how things can't go. So what I do is I give AI my prophetic information, saying this is what I've seen before, and it's what has happened before. I've had these prophetic words come to pass, and then I give them a lot of other information to let them know that I have some background and telling people that things are going to go down before they go down or up before they go up. Yeah, and then still AI goes, that just doesn't make any sense, Chandler, because I know that they know a lot of stuff, right? They know a lot more than me, and I'm just telling them. I said, yeah, but this is what I hear. This is what I see. So it was very cool and nice to know that um, that I'm hoping. I would like to say that Trump and the central banks were listening to what we were saying and preparing for this. That's what I like to say because they didn't just buy gold, a lot of gold. They bought historical amounts of gold year after year for like 4 years. 22, 23, 24, 25, 4 years. For about 4 years, three and a half, 4 years. Historical. And that right there, I finally told AI, I said, you don't buy, because he kept telling me, AI kept telling me, they just buy gold because they're just trying to diversify. Trying to diversify, huh? By buying. And then I came back and I told him, I said, you don't diversify by buying massive amounts of gold. You buy a lot of gold, but not historical amounts. And finally, AI goes, yeah, you're right about that, Chandler. There's something else must be going on. I'm like, dude, I keep trying to tell you, you're not listening to me. You know, anyways, it's a lot of fun, actually. But so I spend a lot of my time having somebody, iron sharpening iron, the prophetic information that I get and the questions that I ask with the iron of AI, with all of its rules and stipulations and a little bit argumentative in a very fun kind of way. And he said, I'm not arguing with you about, it's okay. That's what I like about arguing with a machine. They're not going to get mad and throw a fit and run off, So it's kind of interesting. And so, in that light, I like communicating with AI because they know all the rules and the laws, and yet, I throw monkey wrenches in there all the time with questions like, don't tell me, dude, that Turkey and all those large countries that don't like the dollar uh, are buying historical amounts of gold. Historical, not a bunch, historical, you know, year after year. No, I mean, you don't diversify by buying historical amounts. That's crazy. And finally, AI admitted. They have to understand AI doesn't admit things unless you pretty much corner them. And that's what's so fun about it is I get to lead them along the way, and then I come back and put that big question in there, and hopefully it'll work like I did with him. I said, you don't diversify by buying, because they told me the information that it was historical. So you told me that it was historical. You told me how much, and I found out that it was. And you're going to tell me that that's diversifying? No, no. 20% might be diversifying as far as but no, not that. No. And so finally, he admitted it's so cool for AI to admit, that maybe I got something right over here. It's really a blast. So anyway, that's what's going on. So my news tonight, to be very point blank, is that Trump has created the Genius Act, And the Genius Act really is about stable coins. Now we're not going to get into what that is. Stable coins. It's a way to take care of business. And so it's all backed by the dollar. Now that I did not like because I'm going like the dollar, we don't want to back it. So my argument was, you get all those things, you're going to back them by the dollar. But I did not realize until just really the last couple of days that the purpose for that was to, and then got Texas involved together with the Texas gold and silver thing, connect where it connects together, where the dollar becomes backed by gold and silver. Now that was pretty smart. That the way that they did that. I don't know who told them that. I don't know whether AI helped them figure that out. I don't know who did that exactly, but somebody's got some brains going on up there because you know uh, what I was seeing. So eventually, the dollar, whether it crashes or doesn't crash, it's not going to make any difference because by the time now that they're strengthening the dollar still can crash. I mean, even it doesn't really matter if the system becomes degraded. There's different ways it can be degraded, and I'll talk about that later. Um, the dollar can still crash. But what happens by the time that happens, that America and those who are doing business with the gold and silver and the dollar are going to be able to make the transition into the gold and silver uh, bullion depository thing with the debit card. They'll get used to it. They'll have time to, because it's very difficult to wake up one day and say everything's changed. People are going to be going panic mode, freaking out, going, we're doing what? We don't have the dollar anymore. We're going to go gold and silver. So this transaction that I'm seeing now, nobody's told me this. AI didn't like it when I said it at first, and then he liked it later. I think AI did like it once I put it together for them. AI kind of went, yeah, and they started telling. Then they gave me the basic rules that will work, Randy, because this and that and the other. And going, well, that's got to be what it is. And so I have not talked to anybody, about any of it. Nobody's told me anything. It's just became because the pain that I was going through of thinking, oh my God, what if the dollar goes down, quicker than we thought, or something happens? And like Elon Musk says, he said he looked into the Treasury Department, right? He looked into the treasurers of the United States of America, and he said it ain't good. So that's somebody who's seen inside the treasuries. That's not of the government, so that he could say that because he's not in the government. So I think possibly that Trump let him look at them. Then he kicked him. Then they acted like they got in a fight, got him back outside of the government, also to protect his company, Elon's company, from all the stuff he was going through. But the breakup was more to do with now that Elon has seen the inside of the Treasury Department and what's all really going on. That once he was out of the government, no longer a part of Doge or whatever you call that, then he could talk freely, which I think that could have been a plan, and I think it's a good plan, honestly. Yeah. So that's what I see, and with all the research that I've done on that, with the word of the Lord, that is the thing that is the safest for everyone. It is the best way to go, in my opinion, and I agree with them. I think it's exactly what they're doing. With now that I have rethought it and thought, well, why would they do that? That's like dumb. Well, they're not dumb, right? So they really use wisdom in making the transition, making the dollar stronger, so that China and Russia and all those guys can't tear it apart because they're already doing that, right? It re-strengthened the lack that Russia and China and them backing out of the dollar, basically, uh, that they are, you know, not using the dollar like they used to, which makes the dollar weaker. Now, the fact that they're backing it with gold and silver from Texas, uh, it changes everything. So there's not as much of a threat of the dollar going down. Now, I believe it's all going to go down later, of course, but the thing that's really cool about the information is people are going to have they have time to be able to make the transition more slowly, and where because you can't just change everything you've been doing all your life to going back from uh, working the dollar and everything, the whole system is worth the dollar. You're used to the dollar. and everything's with the dollar, and all of a sudden it's now gold and silver. You got to think completely different, and all that. It's going to be create a lot of confusion and a lot of mess. So I believe that this is the answer, and I praise God and give them the credit for that. I sure didn't think of it, but now it's going to give the dollar strength to not be easily taken down because of its already weakness it already has, and the fact that all these countries who don't like America are already working on have already been working on for a while of devaluing the dollar with the strategy of taking it down. What Trump did, uh, turn things around. In my opinion, what I see going on with my knowledge. So it's really good. So the gold and silver thing is going just like we prophesied, but it's you're using it to strengthen the dollar so that it won't fall so easily that it can, and they're going to give people time to get used to. They're wake up every morning and go like, okay, I got some gold and silver over here, got my debit card, and I may, put some cash in there, buy me some more, or I might use it to buy me, some groceries, and then I'll use the dollar over here, and I'll go to my bank, and my bank will have the dollars in there, or you could have gold in your bank also. And the gold and silver and the gold and silver thing and the dollar thing is going to be able to still be together and function together for a season and give people time to make the transition and get used to it. Does that make sense? Anybody hearing any of this? I know you're listening out there. Yeah, so this is really good news. That was one of my biggest troubling moments, and it's not that the system is not going to crash. The system is the fact that the dollar is having to be backed by the gold and silver again tells you what wasn't working was the dollar, the U.S. dollar without gold and backing it like it used to many years ago before they changed it all. And that was a big trap to take America down. I really believe that, or that's what it definitely was not a good thing. So now the whole system will change. Uh, in our lifetime, in my lifetime at least, I did not, I don't know when exactly when they changed the dollar, when they took the gold backing away from the dollar, but we haven't been used to it in our system, so it's a brand new thing. It's a crashing of the dollar uh, with and yet now that they're backing it with gold and silver because the dollar is crashing, the dollar is the dollar is going you know it's not going to be easily taken down now like it was 6 months ago, right? Especially in the next few months, September 2026. So this is really a good thing, y'all. And so if they're lying to us and padding the dollar, making the dollar look like it's better, like making our economy look like it's better, it's for the reason that they don't want people to panic. And as they activate the gold and silver bullion depository from Texas with the debit card, that is going to be a thing where it will be active September, at least September 2026. It will come alive. That's already a documented fact. Hopefully before then, but it's up, man. It's up. The dollar's going to be able to. The dollar's crashing. How are they saving it with gold and silver, making it stronger so that we can make the transition into the gold and silver mixing together, so that people will not. They have plenty of time, a few years to where the dollar will not be so important as it was because now we have the gold and silver thing to transition to with the debit card. That's the purpose for the debit card. The debit card is instead of just having gold and silver backing it up in the government, it's gold and silver that people own that they will get used to making transition transactions with the debit card. All right, so that way it becomes like everyday life now instead of like they're doing what? When I tell people about this, they're going like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" They don't even have a clue. And so it's really a good thing. Hope I've made that clear. If you have any questions about that, please ask. I would be glad to answer them and see if we can help you guys understand it any better. This should be really good news if you're able to understand what I'm saying. One of my biggest fears was that because knowing that all these countries were buying massive amounts of gold, not just a lot, but historical amounts, that was the big sign that stuck out like a sore thumb to me, that the word I got was right. Right. It didn't give me the word. The word I already had was right, and that confirmed it. And that was what, last couple of weeks ago when I got that information that I shared with you guys. Because when you get words from God, it's nice to have a little bit of proof. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to have proof at first, but eventually there has to be some kind of proof because it's the word of the Lord. It's going to manifest. Manifestations are proof, or not proof, but it is the words of the Lord come to pass. So, uh, yeah, hopefully we got that going on. Okay. All right. I may talk about this again tomorrow night a little bit, a little shorter version of it. But I want people to know about this because I was very, very concerned about it. Although I saw some relief with, um, our last a couple of weeks ago, we suggested we showed you what we were working on talking and our influence with the governments, um, to be able to work with us on helping people. And that these people are smart. They're not like going, well, nobody ever thought about any of that, Chandler. You're so smart. I don't think it's really about that as much as, you know we have, um, from what we've done with our money and with gold and silver, not for ourselves but for you guys, that it really speaks volumes on that we mean what we say, and we're not just playing around. All right, so you wanted them to push them to get the dollar back to gold and silver. Now, if the market crashes, the impact won't be as bad because many have prepared, and you are still warning those who haven't to get prepared. Well, yeah, the preparation is, uh, what has happened is, and that's a good question. Thank you for that. What has happened is that, hang on a second. That ear thing's getting on my nerves. I'm going to get rid of it. Sorry. Um, so, you know, here's the thing: the dollar was crashing, right? Uh, all the countries who don't like America were buying gold and still buying gold uh, in historical amounts. I shared it with you last week, and that was a sign to me that, because it was Turkey and countries that are not friendly with the United States so much, and I named all the countries, but there's many of them. But they were buying gold in historical amounts, and so the fact that they were buying it in historical amounts proved to me that the dollar was crashing, and that Trump knows the dollar's crashing. He can't tell people. He's not going to say, "Oh, the dollar's crashing," because he knows people are going to freak out and panic. So what has happened is part of the preparation that the word of the Lord, I believe, has done is in prophesying this for since 2021. We've been prophesying this just since early 2021. Because I know I sent out the card uh, about the gold and silver on in January 2022. So we were talking about a year before that. So 2021, early 2021, we were talking about this. So I don't know. I can't prove that they listened to what we said and and changed and started working toward getting gold and silver as a currency with the debit card, because that's exactly what we said: a debit card with gold and silver. We prophesied that before it was ever made manifest for at least a couple of years. You couldn't hear a blink about it. There was no blinking of the eye. There was nothing being said about any of it. And then all of a sudden, it's coming out everywhere. But Texas was having a hard time. So the preparation that we did was by the word of the Lord. We helped to, I believe, we helped to prepare the the whole state of Texas with, maybe they thought about doing it. We don't know what they were thinking about, but they didn't start talking about it until 2023. 2022, 2023, somewhere in there. They start talking about it and start saying they're voting on it, they're voting on it, they're voting on it, but they never passed it because it's a difficult thing to do. So the preparations that we did was that we uh, prepared the government prophetically saying, you know, we need to get that gold and silver thing going on, and we prophesied about it, right? So I believe that they took a hold of that information, like they have a lot of our other information. They know me very well in the market arena, and I've had some, major words about the market, which somebody who doesn't know anything, you know, knowing everything about it is crazy, right? Uh, so, and plus, nobody that the people that did know didn't know anything about it until after it was already over with. Then they went, "Oh yeah, well, everybody should have seen that." Well, nobody saw it, or nobody said anything. We're going down. Nobody said it except us. So they know that we've done this. The government knows that we've done this. They keep up with us pretty well. And so yeah, I think we prepared by preparing uh, the Texas and Trump. Of course, Trump, has listened to us and to Mike Huckabee and to all that, the whole scenario from 2018, 2019. And even before that, they knew about us already because of the market stuff. But so we were not new on their list. They just couldn't really talk about us. What are they going to say? Oh yeah, we know him. He's a wonderful prophet of God. No, they're not going to. So it's okay. But we did prepare by doing that. So what we're saying is we have been preparing you guys, and you're now finding out that some of what we've been saying is actually happening and it's actually already been activated by law, which is a major operation to do that. To go from having a system of dollar for Texas, and then all of a sudden go from that to adding gold and silver to it. But major. That's why he couldn't get it. It appears as though that's why he couldn't get it to pass when just through going through regular the way the government votes on things. He couldn't get it to pass because I kept checking. Did you pass it yet? Did you pass it yet? No, we haven't. I called Texas depository. I said, did you pass that? No. They thought we did, but we didn't. I'm going. So they voted nothing. But did they pass it yet? No, not yet. But they're working on it. And so finally, the governor of Texas just came out and said, "I'm going to pass." He just bypassed everything and said, "We're going to pass that law." And so they did. And so that was our preparation. Now the people preparing, it's a little bit less stressful now because of what I see. That's why I'm explaining this tonight. It's an important show tonight. People need to listen, go back and listen to the show because of information that I was not aware of before, was concerned about before. Now I see what Trump was doing when he created the Genius Act, along with Texas, all about the same within 30 days of each other or so. When Texas did their thing, passed the law, and then Trump come on and passed the law of the Genius Act. I didn't even know what the Genius Act was. And so I looked it up and looked into it and then I did research on it and went through my process of how does it fit in. And so it did fit in, but not exactly the way I wanted it to. So I was a little bit upset. But the preparation for the people are now going to find out. I think I'll have it all documented. They're going to everyday people who don't listen to us and never listen to us are going to now start finding out that the gold and silver thing has saved their country. And so it's going to be part of the system now. You'll have, the dollar's going to be harder to take down because it's now being backed by gold and silver, right? That's in short. That's a short explanation. And so because it's being backed now by the dollar, again, like it used to be many years ago, that now it is less threatening to me knowing that that's going on, right? Plus my research and stuff. And so yeah, this is a good thing. So people will start preparing when they find out how Trump and Texas saved their hide by saving the dollar by what they did by backing the dollar with gold and silver and this other thing. Right. They're gonna figure that out. It's gonna become news. and they're going to go. So people are going to automatically go, well, now it's part of the system. Let's then just becomes part of the system. They wake up every morning and the news will be about, yeah, buy gold and silver, and and the dollar's not as threatened as it used to be because now we got it backed by gold and silver. So they'll start using gold and silver because the Texas depository, made it to where they can have a debit card to use gold and silver. Why don't they make it where we could use gold and silver if they're not going to use gold and silver as a way to pay their bills? And why would they do that? You know, that's why they did it. So people are going to start using it, and it become normal for them. And then as the dollar, you know, whenever it crashes completely, whatever the thing goes on with the dollar, which we know that all this stuff going on, they know that the dollar by itself is going to fail. It's already failing, and that's why they're doing all this stuff because they know it's failing, right? So, um, uh, Carmen goes, yeah, you're right about the other countries buying historical amounts. I just saw today China is buying craze and supplies running out faster than the demands. Buying craze, buying what's craze? Chinese is buying crazy and supplies running out faster than the demands. Okay. I think you mean crazy. It says craze, but that's the same thing, right? Okay, very interesting. Thank you, Carmen, for that information. Um, okay, so very cool. Yes, it's a fact. It's a documented fact. The thing is, I just did not know anything about it, and like crazy. That's what I thought. Like crazy. Okay, so thank you for that information. Yes, the thing is that I did not know anything about it. Why aren't they telling the world about this? Why isn't it in the news? Right? Why isn't it in the news? You know why it's not in the news? Because people are going to do what I did. They're going to go like, well, if they're buying historical amounts of gold, then maybe I should be buying historical amounts of gold. You see what I'm saying? But they didn't do that. They hid that. That was hidden even from me. I did not know. I knew that they were upgrading their portfolios, and I talked about that before, about 20%, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it didn't show numbers and it didn't show historic numbers. I did not know any of that stuff. I didn't find that out until I came and told you guys about it. What, a couple of weeks ago? That was not knowledge that I knew, and I don't think much of anybody knew about it. So now that we brought it out, of course, uh, now people are going, "Oh wow, why didn't the news tell us about this?" Because it speaks volumes of what's going on. You know how many people in the economic world would have been going like, they would have been talking about that, going like, "Man, that's a big thing." Nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about it. If it was out there anywhere, it was well hidden because I would have recognized it. I would have seen it. Excuse me. Because I live in this world, and as a prophet, I watch the news not because I enjoy watching the news, because everything's prophetic to me. I watch YouTubes that God leads me to because not because I'm looking for something to do. It's prophetic for me. So yeah, they didn't. The global news did not talk about it because they didn't want people to know. They didn't want people to know. Yeah, believe me, they didn't want anybody to know, or they would have been talking about it. They hid that. But now we are the chandeliers. You join the chandelier club, and we shine the light on things. Yeah, we shine the light on things. And thank God, if it wasn't for me asking the right questions, uh, I would have never seen it myself. I asked AI the right questions, and because I do by word of knowledge, oh yeah, well yeah, sure they can. I'm going like, why didn't you tell me, man? Uh, glad it was glad it will give us a little more time. Yeah, Angela's saying this is good news, Randy. Glad it will give us a little more time. Okay, so hopefully I got that out there where it could be understood. I'm not real good at. I'm not a teacher. I'm not real good at explaining things sometimes, but But if I keep, that's why I keep repeating it until I say it like I think. Well, that makes sense. I repeat things not because I forget I said them. It's more like I think I can say that a little bit better. So I say the same basic thing in a little bit different manner most of the time because I'm trying to find better ways to say it. Because most of the time when people aren't going, "Amen, I got you," "Oh yeah, I got it," I'm going like, maybe I didn't say it correctly. And that's my fault, not anybody else's. I'm not blaming people. I'm blaming myself. So yeah, this is really really interesting, and yeah, okay, all right. So very very interesting, and we are yeah okay. So will banks no longer be used, or will they transition to new systems before the crash? No, the dollar. They're going to be using the dollar. They're still going to use the dollar. That's the thing. That's my whole point tonight. Thank you for asking that. That's a great question. So the whole point is that the dollar system is still going to be being used. Because it's not going to. What they've done is they've saved it from crashing because of what China and Russia have deliberately withdrawn from the dollar and making transactions by the dollar, trying to weaken the dollar, on purpose. So now what they've done, since that was causing some problems and some other things, and the U.S. economy being basically in a hole, um, is that no, the banks are still going to be the banks are we're still going to have the dollar going on for a while. That's my whole point tonight. Is that the dollar will still be used, so banks are still going to be being used. Yes, but so my whole point tonight is that this is going to now give more time than what I thought. I was really worried. I didn't have a timing on the exact date that the dollar's going to be worthless, or devalue so fast that we don't have time to deal with it. So, but no, the banks are still going to have the dollar, and you probably be able to do some things with gold through your bank. I'm sure they'll work that into the system. That the banks will be dealing with gold also. If they're smart, they will. So, yeah, it's or will the depository be the main place gold or silver will be used? Okay, so you're asking it. No, I think that there's going to be a lot of people. Uh, now that Texas has passed the law, as you're hearing, other states in America are also doing the same thing. They're following the Texas example. They're following the Texas example, and so other states now the the law that Trump passed, the Genius Act, is going to be able to make this system used for all America, even if you're not a Texan. But now you're going to see, you're already hearing where, you know, the governors of different states that are Republicans are passing laws like Texas has passed. So they're following the example of Texas. So this is going to become a thing where banks in every state will be feel safe with having gold and using gold, and they'll probably have their own debit cards. I don't know that yet. I haven't been told that by the Lord, but that makes sense because Texas started it, Texas began it, and then because Texas has begun it and it works, then other states will feel safe in doing it and do the same thing. So banks, I think, will be handling gold and probably have a debit card. It's like you got a bank debit card, you have gold, you probably have gold and the dollar on there. Now, if the dollar crashes, when it does, when it completely, you know, uh, and I don't want to explain how that can happen tonight, although I have all the information right in front of me. How the dollar can still crash, even though it's backed by gold. That doesn't safeguard it. Uh, it's not a fail safe. It can still fail, even though the gold and silver is basically backing the dollar system. It doesn't mean that the dollar can't fail, and I will try to explain that in English sometime soon. That's why I'm telling you, just because gold is backing the dollar now, according to what Trump is doing, doesn't mean that it's fail proof. It is not fail proof. It's just what I see. It kind of calmed my concerns that if the dollar starts, something happens, whatever it is, and the dollar starts going crazy down, devaluing. Uh, the preparations have been made for that. If it happened, then we're going to be in bad trouble. And that was, as you know, I talked about this. It was very, very concerning to me, even though I'm prepared for it personally. Uh, God just, God just takes care of me. And so, you know, yeah. But everybody else, I'm going like, God, what are we going to do about that? And so, what we did here at PGN with taking 90 to 95% of our cash that we saved it for years to buy it, to have a studio. And the Lord said, buy gold and silver with it for the people. I went, okay. So we did that. And then, of course, the debit card thing's not going to be ready until go active and live until 2026 September. That is the date. Just Google it if you want, and you'll see that's the date. So it could change. It could be sooner than that. But now that I see that the way they've done the Genius Act, which helps strengthen the dollar with backed by gold and silver, and a connection with Texas and all that. That was really important to me. That's why I wanted to come right out and tell you guys today. So excited about it because I know many people are not going to be prepared for this. Even many of you who've heard me talk about this, you're going like, how do I prepare for this? This is like, I don't have, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult the transaction transitions that make transactions with gold and silver and change the whole system. It's a major operation, not just in the physical part of the banks, working it into the system, but people just in their minds going like, what? So that was really bothering me, and so as y'all heard me talk about, yep, and the system is going to be lost in September 2020. Just Google it. You can Google it. Uh, the Texas Gold Depository laws and all that, and ask them, and just Google about September 2026, and it says it uses the word live. It will be live on September 2026. That's what I saw. It will be live. So the thing we prophesied in 2021, 5 years later, it's live, man. It came alive, baby. It's really cool, really interesting. Because y'all know nobody else talking about that, just us. Because the Lord Jesus is awesome, man. And so, yeah, really cool. All right, I hope I made that really clear tonight. And it's not people's fault that they don't understand. Sometimes I think it's my fault for not sharing things clearly. So it's nice when people ask questions, and then I can repeat some of the information if I need to. It's a lot to digest. It's a lot to digest, and especially when you're giving future information about money and a money and a money system. The change with it sounds easy just talking about it, but the actual changing of it, and then the people getting used to it, and common everyday people don't have a clue. They've never heard even talk about gold and silver debit card. They don't even know. They don't even know what that is. They're going like, huh? They don't have because they haven't been on the inside of this like we have. So you can imagine waking up one day and going like, we now have gold and silver live debit card. Get your debit card. So there you go. All right, I think that's it for me tonight. It's only 9:19, but if you don't have any more questions, great questions tonight. It takes a while to you have to chew the cud a bunch of times and rechew it and rechew it, and then you'll think of new questions. And even though I've already answered the questions, doesn't matter. When you ask the question, that means that you're actually thinking about that particular thing that maybe we've already talked about it, but it doesn't make any difference. You're going like, okay, I'm ready for this next bit of information, and we'll give it to you. That's why questions are so important because it helps me to see, what people are thinking, and I live with this stuff. So to me, it's like, I live with it, so it's easy. I research it, I dig, I pray, I God speaks to me, gives me dreams and visions, and but sometimes the transition into real life is a is a it's a time consuming. It takes time. So all right, yeah. The really cool thing is that uh, you know even though we still use the dollar in our account, we only use like 90 to 95% of it. It kept cash to do business. So we're kind of doing the system right now. We're even though we don't have a debit card yet, uh, we will be able to do that. When it all comes about, when it all activates, we will be all prepared and ready. But right now, it's just not done. So it's going to take more time. And so yeah, so hopefully, as gold and silver keep going up, silver is at an all time record high. We bought more silver than gold. But see, here's the thing that you're going to be, PGN is going to be very blessed by this, uh, and the people of PGN, that you know the benevolence type of a thing. I call it benevolence because it's you know we're giving to people what they need to make it, uh, and so yeah, if we feel like it's anyway. So we'll talk more about that in the future, but when we know more. But yeah, it's a whole benevolence operation. It's for the people. Benevolence means it's not for me. It's for the people, right? So it's benevolence in its action. It's benevolence in its what's the identification, because it's not for Randy or for the ministry. It's for the people. It's right. So anyway, we'll talk more about that later, and you know, we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. But it's going to be interesting to watch. And so, yeah, here's the really cool thing is that because we got in on gold and silver when it was like a lot lower. Like now it's over doubled, more than doubled, maybe like tripled now. Silver I think is now triple. Like, I don't know exactly if that's exactly perfect explanation, but just think about that because we bought it then. The people that buy gold, they're gonna be buying gold when it's really high, right? They'll be getting into gold when gold's really high, and I'm sure they'll make some deals. They'll be making some deals for people, for families. They're going to make the transition, pretty good. But the crash, the word crash means what it'll show me was that the system that exists will no longer be. So that means that we're no longer going to depend just on the dollar, right? We're going to depend on gold and silver, and we're going to have two separate systems. And the system as we know it is really already, it hasn't crashed physically yet, but it's really, that's why all these people are buying gold and silver, gold in historical amounts. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. Why do they do that? Because that's where it's all going. And the dollar is still going to, the dollar is going to be just, we are protecting the dollar from a unintended timing crash, right? So now it's going to be strengthened so that what China and Russia has done to degrade the dollar, devalue the dollar, it's not going to be as effective, right? We're now more protected uh, for a little bit later season, which is the main thing that I was concerned about. So I think that that's the answer, and I think it's really cool. Whoever came up with that, they're smart people. So I'll give them credit for that. And but yeah, the dollar is basically cracked. That's why they're backing it with gold because it's basically gone through the process of not being backed by gold, which crashed it. It crashed. I mean, in a sense that now why would they back it with gold again if it didn't need help, if it didn't need to be backed by gold because it's crashed. In other words, the system is crashed, and the fact that when they took gold and silver out of backing the dollar and they started printing dollars, that crashed it. That eventually led to the crash of it, plus other dumb mistakes, other dumb ideas and things that they made. You see what I'm saying? So when they took the gold backing away from the dollar many years ago, was it who was it that did that? It was Nixon that changed all that. Nixon, I think. Let me see. Yes, August the 15th, 1971, President Richard Nixon unilaterally ended the United States commitment to convert dollars to gold at a fixed price for foreign central banks. The Nixon shock, they called it. Look, you can look this up. August the 15th, 1971, President Nixon unilaterally ended the United States commitment to convert dollars to gold at a fixed price for foreign central banks, an action known as the Nixon shock, SHOCK. This decision effectively moved the world to a system of floating fiat currencies and brought an end to the post World War II Bretton Woods system. Bretton Woods system. So that is true. It happened uh, in 1971. It became complete. Richard Nixon did that. And when Richard Nixon did that, the dollar, right then, the dollar was doomed to crash. So when we say it's crashing, it may not be manifesting with the word crash on it, but why are they going back to put backing it with gold again? It's not really the same thing. It's not the same thing exactly. We have a whole new system now. In 1971, we didn't have the system that we have now, right? But Trump has found a way to back the dollar with gold and back the dollar system with gold, and the you know the stable coins and all that can now be chosen to be backed with gold instead of the dollar. So, and then Texas has this thing too. So Nixon did that, and when he did that, the dollar, nobody knew it back then, but the dollar was headed for a crash, and that's what has happened, and that's why we're in trouble the way we are because of that. So if that makes sense tonight, I'm kind of sharing some different things, but thank you for explaining the Genius Act and how it will work with the dollar. It has so many components that it can get confusing, and I wasn't aware of the details you shared. Yeah, okay, that's why I like people to ask questions because not everybody's been able to be on and listen and know what we've shared and haven't shared. So any question is good. There's no question that's a bad question, right? So we're on a lot. We're on several hours uh, per week, and we share a lot of information. Sometimes people are on, sometimes they're not when I share. So I don't know what people know. So ask anything you want, and we will try to answer them the best that we can. Yes, Nixon uh, took the backing of gold away from the dollar, and from that day on, nobody knew it exactly like I said earlier. But that began the crash of the dollar, and that's why they're going back to it because the dollar's crashing. Just like we said, it may not look like a crash like most people think crash, but that's why they're getting it back going. That's why Trump is doing it again because the crash of the dollar. They can't say the dollar's crashed because if they did that, people are going to freak out and panic, right? So you know, I don't think it's wrong what they're doing. I think it's just it's business. So that's it. All right. Anybody else have any other questions tonight? So yes, the dollar has already basically crashed. It's just the process. It started, like I said, when Nixon did his thing. So I'll repeat that a bunch of times. But okay, so um, get that through your understanding, process that, and those of us who got into gold and silver back when it was cheap, which all you guys who are faithful to PGN, you are connected to all that. Whether the dollar ever went down or not doesn't make any difference as far as it. But when we bought gold and silver at the time, gold and silver started going basically straight up after that. And silver, it had a little bit of adjustment in October, but it's now building back right back up again. So all those who are part of PGN and are connected to that, you're part of that. We bought gold at that really cheap, and now it's really high. And we didn't sell anything when it started going down, because I don't want to lose we don't want to lose our position, and not my position, but the position that we have with gold. We don't want to get out of our position and lose our position as cheap as we got it, because now it's going to go up again, and that's what's happening right now. So I don't know. I don't know exactly the timing of everything, as far as how much and when and where that's going to go and adjust and all that. But all right, so there you go. All right. Any more questions? All right. Does that make sense? It doesn't really matter whether the dollar goes down or not. Like, I mean, the dollar's not going to go down. No, it's already gone down. Basically, it just hasn't. That's why they're backing about gold now, because of that. It's already crashed in a sense. Uh, so even if it didn't crash, just think about this: we own gold, or you guys own gold. PGN owns gold. PGN owns gold at a really low price, right? So let's say that the dollar never goes down, which it is, but I mean, as far as the transition for the Great Tribulation, all that is really when things are going to heat up, and that's what we're prepared for. So if you don't have a job, get a job, go to work, or whatever it takes, and make you a living, and don't be, wanting to get your goal right now so you can stay alive. It's not for that. Get your job, keep your job, work, do something to make money, and then when the time comes, all that money will be yours. As God reduces it, and when it hits, when it arrives, uh, we'll be making those transactions. They will be, it's going to be very interesting to watch. Okay, so either way, whether the dollar crashed all the way or not does not make any difference. What has happened is we have bought gold when God told me to buy gold, uh, and yeah, so we are blessed. And gold and silver doing nothing but going straight up, y'all. So either way, we are blessed. Carmen says Trump really went all out with gold inside the White House. Gold fixtures, decorations, everywhere. He was showing what he was doing behind the scenes. Oh, really? I haven't seen it yet. Cool. Well, that's his life. Building is his life, and that's what he's into. So I think it's cool. Really, really cool. I think it's great. Let him do what he wants to do. I think he's doing a betterment for our country, and I really do. And what he's done for the dollar by backing it with basically getting it worth back by gold and silver from Texas. Uh, I mean, that's just like, I mean, just think about that. I didn't even see, because my eyes were on, I knew the dollar was crashing. I knew that. I mean, God told me that was our economy and the dollar's crashing. But there's ways to save it, right? Without having to go through a complete devastation like we did in 2008. There's ways to save it. And that's what my Joseph thing was wanting to do, was save it. And so, we prophesied that. And so God has been gracious, and he's really done that and used Trump to do it. So Trump is a Joseph, and I'm a Joseph number two, or something like that. Whatever. You got President Joseph and Prophet Joseph. Yeah, trying to save the people, and God is good. All right, y'all. Man, we've gone through so many transitions here at PGN. I mean, so many things. It's been amazing. Right? Yeah. All right. Yeah, read that about Nixon. Get your eyes on that article about August the 15th, 1971. President Nixon went from the gold from the gold backed dollar to the non backed gold backed dollar. Yeah, however you say that. Yeah. Uh, the whole decision effectively moved the world to a system of floating fiat currencies and brought an end to the post World War II Bretton Woods system. What is that? I do not know. I mean, I do know about the Bretton Woods, but system of monetary management established the rules for commercial relations among 44 countries, including the United States, Canada, Western European countries, and Australia. After 1944, Bretton Woods Agreement uh, until the Jamaican Accords in 1976, the Bretton Woods system was the first example of a fully negotiated monetary order intended to govern monetary relations among independent states. That's the Bretton Woods system that we went from that to the Nixon shock. Yeah, if you read up on that, I think it will help you a little bit. I want to try to do the same thing also, but just trying to get you guys prepared and ready. We are, like I said, the fact that we bought gold and silver when we did, October the 4th, 2023, and then now it's all gone up, just confirms, just ought to be enough confirmation for you right there, just that alone, that God has given me the mantle for the market, right? I mean, that's just right there. Should be evidence enough, not even knowing anything else. That should be evidence enough that God has given me the market mantle. So the information that I get, it's all tied to that mantle. And, so we're here to, like Joseph, here to store up and save people, you know, and that's what we're doing. That's our whole purpose, right? Yeah. So, all right, I think I'm running out of words, information for now. I have a lot more. I want to share some other things, but I'm going to wait. So it's only 9:38. So it looks like I'm going to get off early tonight. Again, unless somebody asks me some questions, I will move on. Okay, no questions. All right. You can text me questions. You can ask me questions any way you want to. Chat with me. Text me. If I don't get any questions pretty quick, I'm going to call it a night. I've been literally today has been really extremely busy. I got a lot of information today, a lot of revelation, a lot of cool. As part of it is what I'm sharing with you tonight. I try to give it to you as soon as I get it. Um, I try to get it as soon as I get it, so you can have it. And if it's a little bit of a change or an adding to what I've already said, I just say we're adding to it. We're I'm understanding things, and so yeah, the dollar's crashing, and that's why they're backing with the gold. That's my answer to. We thought you said it was going to crash. It was already crashed when Nixon made that change. That was the beginning of the crash right then in 1971. Let's see here. Shatuka. Where is it? Yeah. So I was about, I wasn't even born yet when he did that. No, 1971. No, wait a minute. I was born. What am I talking about? Yes, I was like 20 years old, or 18 years old. 1971, I was like 18, 17, 18 years old when they did that. That's why I don't really remember it. People say that that's when it changed everything with the dollar. So now, 50 something years later, we're dealing with it. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Okay. Carmen has a question. All right. Thank you for that question. So, how will insurance companies be affected by this if the market crashes? If you can explain it. Well, the market's not going to crash. I mean, it's already crashed in the sense that the dollar's having to be saved by the fact that they're rebacking it with gold. The reason they're rebacking it with gold because it's crashing. It's crashing and it's going to crash. And they're saving it from a total disaster, like the man-made crash. You know, they're saving it from total disaster by doing this, building this net that we talked about with the Trump's Genius Act, plus the Texas Gold and Silver uh, laws being passed. So it's when people say crash, see, that's what I try to tell people over and over again. It's kind of hard to process because we're so used to the word crash, meaning like 2008, the market crashed, right? This crash is different. This crash has to do with the dollar. And the dollar started crashing the day that they started printing dollars. They no longer had gold to back the dollar. They began to crash back then. So it's been a process of being very vulnerable to being crashing completely. And now that it's come close to crashing completely, I mean, it's crashing, right? It's been crashing since then. But the final crash is now going to be delayed a little bit. A man-made crash. It's delayed because they are backing it with gold again, which keeps it from crashing. So I believe it's going to crash all the way, but they're keeping it from happening. Um, they're keeping it from happening to devastate our the globe like 2008 did. It was 2008 was a global crash. It wasn't just a United States crash. It was a global crash. Global banks were affected. The crash. So they've already had one. The globe has already crashed once with 2008. With when the United States markets crashed, it crashed around the globe. So it was global. So you'd think that they would know better than to do this again. But so what they're doing right now is they're saving from having another global crash by backing it with the dollar again. So it's already basically crashed. Okay, that makes sense. All right, good question. I'm answering those questions. Um, all right, Angela's asking a question about converting cash to gold or gold to cash. Um, all right, and then Carmen's asking the question about how will okay, so the gold is priced per troy ounce. You may not understand. You can look this up yourself, which is slightly heavier than a regular ounce of 31.1 grams. Right. The price fluctuates constantly based on market. I'm just reading you what I have here. Uh, the price fluctuates constantly based on market trading. As of mid December 2025, gold is trading at 2,600, 2,700 per troy ounce. Uh, though you'd need to check the current spot price for today's exact dollar. Your $1,000 example. If gold is 2,650 per troy ounce, 1,000 plus $2,650 per ounce equals 0.377 troy ounces. Is this going to make any sense? Probably not. The practical terms of it is 1 ounce of American Gold Eagle coin, $2,650, 2,750 spot premium. Uh, I'm reading this, but I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's really going to. I don't know how to explain this. Uh, I don't know if I know how to explain that because you have the spot prices of gold and silver. Um, okay, so let's do that. All right, hang on a second here. Okay, I'm trying to answer your question. Really great questions. Gold costs 2,650 per ounce right now. So with $1,000, you'd get roughly 1/3 of an ounce of gold. Okay, that makes sense. Think of it like this. Uh, let me just copy this. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, I sent that to Angela. The simple version says that I read the whole thing right now. I probably doing it good. So if you want to know what the answer to her question is, which is a good question, I will send it to you by text and you can read it for yourself. It's pretty simple. I have a simple version here. Gold costs 2,650 per ounce right now. So with $1,000, you'd get roughly 1/3 of an ounce of gold. Think of it like this: 2,600 equals 1 ounce of gold. $1,000 about 1/3 ounce. $500 about 1/5 of an ounce. $100 a tiny piece. The price changes every day based on what people are buying and selling it for, just like stocks. Okay, hopefully that made sense, and glad I be able to get that to you. Carmen's question. Let's see here. All right. Um, Yeah, I keep answering the same question about the dollar. So you're asking me about a crash, and I'm saying to you that we're not looking at a crash per se, right? You're looking at, like they're saving it from crashing. I mean, it's already crashed. Uh, it just hasn't crashed all the way, and that's why they are now. Trump is now turning it to gold and silver because it's not going to crash the old-fashioned way. So that question, I wish I could answer that question better. But so the insurance company question, because you're asking me a question about the market crashes. Uh, Insurance companies will still pay for things by dollar because the dollar market is not going. Now they are basically temporarily saving the dollar from crashing by backing it with gold again. So, but that doesn't make it fail proof. It still can fail, but it's going to allow the dollar to last a little longer, right? So we're looking at, I don't know how much longer time. We're looking at a few more years, uh, where it's going to move from the dollar system only to the dollar and the gold and silver working together. So the gold and silver now backing the dollar is going to be what's going to save the dollar. So it's not going to be a typical crash. So I can't really answer that question. I apologize. There's still 9 more months to go. If the market crashes before that, the dollar cannot be backed. Uh, yeah. So that's a good question. And I would be likely to say that just look what's going on right now. They're making the market look like it's okay, right? And so even though it's not okay, they are, Trump has gone out and got trillions of dollars backing. So that gives confidence to the market. And when you have confidence in a market, uh, it it's allowing Trump to come out and say something that's not totally, it's not a lie, it's just not true. He's doing he's fluffing the market because he doesn't because he, they're going to fluff it so that it doesn't go down in between now and when the dollar launches with the gold and silver. That's what's going on right now. They are. I'm fairly confident in the fact that 9 months that's not going to happen because the way they're fluffing the market, even though the dollar has already crashed, as I'll probably repeat this 100 times, it's really hard to process this. Even though the dollar has already crashed, it has not. It's not crashed in a way that everybody's jumping out of it because they don't know that it's crashed. Again, as soon as he got out of, yes, to avoid panic, exactly, to avoid panic. So why are all these countries buying gold at historical amounts, which is a documented fact, right? 2022 on. Why? Because of this. The dollar's not trusted. Why is Trump padding it and fluffing it? Because if he doesn't fluff it, then it's people are going to panic. Right, exactly. Good point, Carmen. He is avoiding panic. Exactly. The system isn't launched yet. It is not launched. It will not be launched. If you go look it up and do your little bit of research, as I'm sure you have, it will tell you that it launches live September 2026. So I think that I'm just telling you what I think because I've been very very concerned about the whole thing as I've shared many times on the show that because I can figure out why is he fluffing the market. I mean, is he being deceitful? Is he being trying to hide stuff? No, he's being smart. He's being smart. It's not deceitful. It's not evil. It's not bad. He's being smart. The Democrats are trying to prove that if you watch the CNN, you will see that CNN is constantly saying the market is worthless. That's what they're basically saying. It's crashing. It's already crashed. It's crashing. It's going down. And Trump, they get Trump on there saying, "Oh, it's all good. It's all good." Why is that battle going on? Because the battle of panic. So I think they pretty well got it under control as far as the fluffing. I think it's smart. I think it's a smart thing. I don't think he's being deceitful or evil or joining the system. I don't believe that because I already I know things, and so like I said, I watch the news every day for prophetic reasons. You watch CNN, which I watch CNN more than I watch any of them because they're the negative guys. They're not the negative guys. They want Trump to look bad, so they find everything they can to make him look bad. So I look at the bad information, go like, that's partially true, but not fully true. And the reason that he's fluffing the market because they said today they're trying to show everybody the market's worthless. It's going down. It's going down. It's down. It's worthless. And then they'll get and they say, "See, look what he says about it," and he'll say, "Oh, it's looking really good." I don't know if you've seen that or not, but it's really fun to watch on my end because when you know what's going on, overall, when you know what's going on and where it's going, it's just a strategy, and it's a good strategy, I think. Normally, I wouldn't say that. I'd say he's a lying, deceiving dog trying to. That's what CNN trying to make it look like, but he's really just protecting the country. And he wants, and they don't want a Republican to save the country. They want the Democrats want to save it, not the Republicans. So what are they doing? They're doing everything they can to show how what everybody thinks that the market is just worthless and all that. So that's what's happening. That's what's happening, and it's a real battle. And he's done a really good job. And believe me, China and even these Democrats, they know what he did with the Genius Act, and Texas has done that. They know they're working together, and they're doing a great job. And they're doing a really great job. So I'm proud of them actually. Fluff it for good reasons. Whatever. Yeah. Um, so yeah. Anyway, really good questions tonight. Thanks for asking those. It gives me something to discuss. And okay, I'll research it out some more. Thank you for helping us be ahead of this major change. You're welcome. Thank you. That's Angela from South Carolina. Okay, great questions. I love answering them because I work it. I'm really involved in this, and so my information progresses and grows. The overall of it is the Lord says it's in 2023 would crash. So that's been a couple of years ago, right? Yeah, a couple of years ago it crashed, or was the beginning of the manifestation of the crash. Is what it was. Everything's going to change after the Israel Hamas war, Israel Gaza war, Gaza Hamas war, and all the other wars going on. 3 days, 6 days before that. So there's a lot of proof out there. And then when we found out about the all the countries who their central banks, the bank of banks of all the banks, all the banks in around the world, the central bank is the main bank, and they're buying gold with uh, historical amounts. So that's just in 2022, and that's when we sent the card out 2022. Because we've been talking about it all happening in 2021. So whether they listen to us or if it's just purely prophetic, either way, it's all good. All right. Yep. He's avoiding panic. Exactly. So you're wrong about the market uh, crashing. No, it's already basically crashed. And I'm trying to explain it to you in the way because I did not know all this either. When God speaks to me, I just listen to him and I just say what he says. I don't understand it all. I'm not a financial person. So now we understand that the crash of the system was the crash of the dollar, which began in 1971 with Richard Nixon when he took the gold backing away from the dollar and they started printing dollars like they had no backing to it. What is that? That's failure. That's automatic failure. It took 50 something years for it to and now Trump has done a great job in you know turning that around. Can't turn. You can't. Even Elon Musk said there's no way to turn the U.S. economy around. That's what Elon Musk says. Who's seen the Treasury, who they let him see it, and then they took him out of the government so he could talk about it. In my opinion, that's my opinion. And he has. He's saying that the U.S. economy is a piece of trash, and the only thing that can save it is AI, whatever. So that's his thing. But uh, so this is an amazing thing that uh, you know if they didn't back the dollar with the gold, which which will happen September 2026. If you knew all the laws and all what a big deal it was to change all that, if you knew, I mean, I don't even know all of them, all of it, but it is huge, huge thing to do, massive operation, and so it's been really they've really done a great job. I was a little worried, and you guys know about that, so I'm not talk about that again. But so now they are, through all this stuff and fluffing the market. The dollar crashed, started crashing in 1971. They removed the gold, and 50 something years later, it's proved to be true that it was, they call it the Nixon shock because it really just upgraded our system as we had it and made it very unsafe, and that's what I'm feeling. I felt, that's it. So it's very unsafe, and now they're putting the safety connection back to it, and they only did it because the market has crashed already. They just don't. It's just not out there, and they're confessing it and talking about it because they can still save us from a major disaster. And then the whole system will be getting used to gold and silver transactions, and then the transition won't be so difficult. Right now, it would be to just suddenly jump to gold and silver and debit cards with Texas. That'd be like, and even in my own mind, I'm going like, that sounds impossible. But when you're a prophet, you prophesy stuff. None of it looks possible when you get it. None of it looks possible when you get it. It's just like, wow, how's that going to happen? That didn't make any sense. Yeah, like the satellite thing. 2021, we're saying we're going to have our own satellite system. We're going, like, how can we have our own satellite system when the main system is owned by the system of satellites? How are we going to have our own? Like, we're going to get drones and put our telephones on the drone, or communication uh, devices on a drone and send it straight up, and then we can call people and talk to them. Or so I didn't understand how it was going to work. I did not know about Elon Musk doing all that. That was all new to me. So it's been an amazing trip, especially for those of you who've been listening all this time. All right. I keep saying I'm getting off, and I keep staying on because I get some good questions. I just need something to talk about. I mean, I got plenty to talk about, but I don't want to change subjects and get off into something else. I want to try to stick with this. Yeah. So we have to readjust your thinking a little bit because I was concerned that the dollar could crash. China and Russia are working really hard on trying to crash the dollar. In fact, the Democratic Party wants to crash the dollar. Even though it's already basically crashed, they want to expose it and make people feel it so the Democrats can be right instead of the Republicans. It's a great strategy, but it's not going to work. And so yeah, so I was very concerned about it myself. And now that I see the the thing that Trump did with the Genius Act, it was truly a genius act. I have to say, whoever came up with that, you're a genius. I'm telling you, it is. It was. fantastic. And, you know, they just had to fluff it a little bit longer than I thought they should have, but they'll fluff it until September. But next year, midway through next year, you know, it's going to be shaky mid next year, May, June, July, somewhere in there. It's all going to, the truth is going to start to be made manifest about that. I gave that word when Trump first came in that within a year and a half, the Nineveh timing of my first Nineveh that I had a year and a half later, the earthquake that I said was going to happen didn't happen when I said 40 days from that time, and then a year and a half later to the day it happened. So that's kind of how we got the information. It was a year and a half. So a year and a half into his term in office, second term in office is we're going to see. I mean, they're going to really going to be some shaky things going on from June, July, May, June, July, somewhere in there. And thank God, July, August, September. September is like 2 months away from that. So that's going to be, it's going to be activated. I wish they could do it earlier, but I'm sure they've got it figured out. Now I'm going to trust them that they got it figured out. All right. Okay. I'm done. And now it's documented so people can go back and listen to that. We're not saying that the dollar's not crashing. It's already crashed, basically. They've just been fluffing it until September 2026. And as you can see, if you watch CNN, what I just said earlier, how they are doing all they can to prove that it's fallen. Yeah. And he's doing a good job of fluffing it. He's a good fluffer. All right. Good night, everybody. That's it for me. All right. Thank you. It's 10 o'clock now. So we made it till 10 o'clock. We went from 8 to 10. 2 hours and 8 minutes. Hallelujah. All right. Goodbye. Good night. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday. We're going to pray over everybody tomorrow night. It's my favorite night of the week where we get to prophesy over every person, whoever they are, wherever they are. Doesn't make a difference. Just check in. Get your name on there. If you're on the video platform, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever you're on. Get your name in there and then go to sleep or go to work or whatever you got to do. You can go back and get your word later.